Hey, this is me building a $3 million a year business in public. The way every one of these videos go is I start them with some YouTube comment Q&A. That's just to deliver value right off the bat. And it's also an engagement hack because the more comments that I get, the more algorithmically I get boosted on YouTube. Then I do some building and strategizing in public before finally showing you guys some growth stats across my YouTube, my Instagram, and my products. So this is the main channel. If you don't know who I am, you've never heard of me. And then this over here is my daily updates channel, which allows me to answer questions in a very streamlined and efficient way. So what do I do in order to answer those questions? I just scroll all the way down to the very bottom of the community tab. That's what I'm doing right now, which just shows me every comment I've ever received on any one of my videos. So if you guys want me to answer yours, just, ask them. Just ask away. Ask what I had for breakfast this morning. Ask what I'm drinking for coffee. Ask how my latte art is going. My latte art is not going. Okay. We're almost down there. Last question was, is that a 100... Oh, sorry, Freak Radio. I could tell you some stories. He says, brother, we're all waiting for story time with Big Nick. Nick, will you tell us a story? Let's hear some more your failed businesses. I actually learned a ton from other people's failures. Okay, I got you, buddy. No problem. I'll tell you a fun story. Let's see here. Well, why don't we start with my very first... No, I mean, I guess I've told that story a bunch of times. Why don't we start with... I've tried to start like so many SaaS businesses. That's not even funny. I've also tried starting so many e-commerce businesses. It's not even funny. Just because I think this is a little bit more relevant, why don't I talk with you guys about my videography business, which is actually going pretty well. It was called Video Kings. Okay. Video Kings was one of the very first businesses I ever made. I ended up selling it to my roommate at the time, who maybe some of you guys will recognize. His name is Jono. He runs a YouTube channel on relatively similar subjects to me. The whole idea was, at the time, I was watching a bunch of Grant Cardone videos where, Grant Cardone was big on like outbound sales and like high ticket sales and pressure tactics. And I think there was like some video that he made on like the simplicity of a name. And I was like, like up until now, I've always tried picking names that were meaningful and relevant to me. So I had like Nimbus Digital, Pacific Creative Group, and they all sounded really nice. And I think Grant Cardone's point was just like, dude, be simple. Be simple as hell, man. Just choose something simple and make sure that everybody understands it. There's a little accent there. So I was like, okay, I'm looking for... At the time, I was really struggling for money, and I was just looking for a new vertical to go into. And one of my best friends at the time, Julian, who he ran a videography agency that was very successful, and I think he was making like $40,000 a month at the time, which is huge for me, Canadian dollars, but it is what it is. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to start this videography business. And I spent like 30 seconds on the name, and I was just like, okay, we're the kings of video. And to me, that was like a massive unlock because up until that point in time, as I mentioned, I thought I had to be super meaningful with everything that I did, which, like you should be meaningful with stuff that you do, but it should not be the requirement. And most people don't really give a shit about what your business name is. Cool. So then I went and I designed some assets in Canva, and then I put together a little website. And it was pretty cool initially anyway. What I did was I had zero social proof at all. So I hadn't worked with like anybody as a videographer, and I barely knew how to pick up and hold a camera, for fuck's sake. So I took this kind of ingenious approach to social proof, at least I think, where I wrote on a contract. So sorry, first of all, I pretended like I was getting a ton of business. That's kind of, requirement number one. And then I reached out to a bunch of other videography agencies, and I said something along the lines of, hey, I'm getting so much business. I don't know what to do with it. Would you guys like me to give you some of my business? If you guys want some leads, let me know. We could book a call, and then we can set up some sort of lead sharing arrangement. Obviously, if you approach a business with an offer of basically like, hey, do you want free money? They're going to say yes. So that's what I did. And then a bunch of them were like, yeah, let's do it. So then I took them to this little coffee shop that was a block and a half away from my house. And I'd always arrive 5 minutes early with a bunch of papers that I was shuffling and, like reasonably like quality dress. And then I would basically say, hey, how's it going? So our business does blah, 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 I'd shake their hands. Our business does blah, blah, blah. We have this like, pretty innovative lead generation approach that allows us to get leads at the fraction of the cost that most other people are doing. How do you normally get your business? Is it mostly referrals? And everybody's like, yeah, because that's just, most agencies are referrals. Most people don't have any marketing or lead gen skills. And then I said, cool. Well, the way that I'm finding a lot of relationships go, and, we have a bunch of successful ones, are we basically like get a bunch of leads, and then when we can't internally fulfill it, I just pass them off to you. Then I take a percentage of the deal. Is that reasonable? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. So this is termed like an overflow contractor arrangement or an overflow agency arrangement. I figured that you'd be down because this just is a very easy thing to say yes to. Would you mind just looking over this one pager really quickly, letting me know if it's okay? And then I put it in front of them. The one pager essentially said, hey, like you're now working with Video Kings. Video Kings is like an overflow contractor. You would be an overflow contractor for Video Kings. If you are okay with this, then Video Kings will use your social proof, basically use your case studies and stuff like that as portfolio pieces to sell prospective clients. So, most people would be like, hey, so what exactly does this mean? And I'm like, hey, well, that just means, if we have more clients than we know what to do with, I can show them your portfolio pieces. So your work that you've done, the videos that you've shot for big people, big clients and whatnot. And then I can just say something like, hey, our team has worked with this company or that company or that company. Are you okay with it? Like 80% of people are like, yeah, of course. So then, I think I had like 15 or 20 agencies sign this. I preferentially looked for like the really big ones. And then, at the end of this like 3-week period, because I cold called all these businesses to get them to meet with me. So not all of them said yes. And it took a fair amount of time for the turnaround. But at the end of this, 3-week period or so, I had social proof that was like, I've worked with Gillette. We've worked with FIFA. I was always saying like our team has and stuff like that. But I thought it was a pretty creative way to go from nothing to something. So, kind of tongue in cheek, kind of bullshitty, but it worked really well. And, then once I had all this social proof, obviously the selling became so much easier, right? Because now I actually have social proof that I could sign. I could say, hey, members of our team, which is technically correct because now we have an interagency relationship, have worked with X, Y, and Z, a big company. And it was pretty clever. And that's what actually enabled me to get like sufficient lead volume, believe it or not. So I didn't have lead volume initially because I had no case studies or social proof or whatever, but I bootstrapped it by using other people's. And then boom, now I had a bunch of lead volume coming in. So, I was still very much a beginner in business at the time. I didn't scale that massively, but I think it was just under $10,000 a month or so where we peaked. I started noticing that we were running into some fulfillment issues just behind the scenes, like difficulty in me actually coordinating projects. We started doing mostly weddings after a little while, just because wedding season was in. The issue is this was right around COVID time though. And when COVID time hit, it doesn't matter how much social proof you have when the government in Vancouver, where I was living at the time, outlaws literally all physical events, more than 2 or 3 people. Obviously I can't keep doing my freaking business. So I was pretty pissed. I'm not going to lie. I'd finally found the vehicle that I could have scaled past $10,000 a month. It had been validated by a friend of mine. I'd found an ingenious social proof approach. And for, the first time in my life, I basically had a business structure where I had cool big logos on my site. I had people reaching out to me like, well, you worked with Gillette. And I'm like, well, I didn't work with Gillette, but same difference. And then, we basically got shut down from, $10K in 1 month to $0 the next month because all of the weddings that we had signed were no bono. Basically I had to refund, I think $10,000 or something like that month for a bunch of weddings that were supposed to take place that now no longer wanted to, because I had, I built a provision into the contract, which basically said, hey, if there's things that are totally outside of our control, obviously we need to refund you, which is what any reasonable service provider would do. And then, the whole business that I had painstakingly scaled to, just under $10,000 a month just disappeared. I was kind of shitty. And that was a direct reason why I ended up learning software and learning, no code with Video Kings at the time. I had another one called Photo Kings as well. I tried running both of them side by side, which was, another good idea, I would say, because there's a lot of upsell and cross-sell potential between the two. But with Photo Kings and Video Kings, I was using automations and no code and stuff, but I was using them for the purpose of acquiring local business, right? If you think about it, if you're a videographer, you have to physically be on-prem with the camera, right? So you have to be marketing to local leads. And if there is something that is location specific, aka the government of your location says, hey guys, you can't do this anymore. Or if there's some big weather event, I don't freaking know. The point I'm making is you're so geographically focused that if something like that occurs, you can't do anything. So then I was like, okay, well, how do I insulate myself against this sort of shit from happening again? It's probably going to happen again. Who knows where the hell our society is barreling towards? We might be locked down every year. So I was like, well, I gotta go digital. And I took those nascent no code skills that I developed in that business and, the door-to-door one previously. And then I doubled down on software and computer science. And then I ended up taking a whole comp sci degree. So that was pretty big. That was pretty big for me. If I didn't have that experience, that massive, oh my God, it's actually working. I'm actually a successful entrepreneur. I can actually afford more than freaking soup packets. I was very broke until then. And then have that turn into zero, I never would have actually been put on the path of automations and whatnot. So yeah, to answer your question, that's pretty cool. And then as part of this, we ended up building a ton of assets for Video Kings and Photo Kings, a lot of SEO pages. And so we started getting a lot of organic traffic about like a year later. So when I checked in a year later, we were just getting a ton of organic traffic. And at the time, Jono was running a DJ contracting business called DJing.ca. And I don't know if he's still running. I think he might have sold it or something like that. But because there was so much overlap between Video Kings for weddings, Photo Kings for weddings, and then DJing.ca for weddings, he just asked me, hey, like, would you be interested in selling these websites to me? So I sold the websites to him. I don't think I even sold them for like 10 grand, but he bought them and he flipped them and he instantly started generating like a lot more money than I was with them. So kudos to him for that. Yeah. Figured you guys like that. Mahir Ahmed says, is that $100 RPM? Would love to know what's your RPM for the main channel. I don't know. What is RPM again? What the hell does that mean? Revenue per mil? How do I find that out again? I got an estimated revenue? Revenue probably. Yeah, no, my RPM is 10, not 100. Yeah, it looks like the most revenue I achieved was on this, which makes sense. But no, my RPM is 10. I wonder what the RPM is on my main channel, actually, just while we're at it. Can I do this? Let's see. Revenue. Yeah, it's 12. It's gone down a lot. Back in the day, my RPM on these channels was like 50, I think, because I had a much smaller audience and the people that tended to watch me tended to be like developers and stuff. When they tend to be developers, not just like biz op people, obviously your top of funnel is a lot smaller, but then the intent is a lot higher. And then obviously you get to sell them stuff like software and whatnot on ads. So it's a very like, very normal progression, I would say. Sorry, I'm a little sick. Okay. Alfred says, hey, Nick, just going strong on my automation journey, begin to do cold outreach methods. I have a question though. Stuck between building the systems myself and selling them, or should I just be like a middleman kind of guy? But the middleman means more time to generating possible leads. By the way, good content. Yeah. I mean, like the whole leverage with this business model, I would say, now that I'm sitting on the other side of it, is the whole leverage is just like no code significantly shaves off the time necessary to generate technical solutions that are still reliable and robust and maintainable. So instead of you having to like specialize in computer science and become like a programmer or whatever, which would take years of your life and then really split your attention, you can actually maintain skills on both sides of the aisle, technical and then sales as well. So if you deprive yourself of that and then triple or quadruple down into sales without having any technical experience, I think that's just kind of silly. That just loses the whole point of the business model, which is that like you can be the person that knows enough automation to be dangerous while still selling, while still spending the vast majority of your time selling. So I don't know if I'd recommend that actually. Yeah. Okay. James says, salutations, fellow Canadian here from Ontario. I just started my agency with my brother back in May and have looked into your videos as a way to gain clarity on a lot of issues. I had a question for you regarding content creation. I'm trying to build my personal brand in order to build authority in the space, but I've struggled immensely when it comes to video. At this point in my personal branding journey, do you recommend focusing on just pushing content or pushing out high quality content at a much slower rate? If you were to start the channel from scratch, what videos would you make? Well, I wouldn't be in your situation in the first place. I don't think it makes any sense to start an agency, to start a YouTube channel and start talking about stuff until you have some actual like value that you've delivered in the past. Like, dude, if your revenue is less than like $20,000 a month, you should not be running this YouTube channel right now. Not recommend it, because lead volume will be so variable. There's nothing that you can build a business around. And then the time that you'll spend just like touching up your content and trying to make your content really high quality or whatever, it just like completely defeats the purpose. Believe it or not, your content does not have to be very high quality so long as you are somebody worth listening to. Like, I'm just in my room. There's like a little double bed beside me. You can see half of my closet door over here. I'm in a tank top. I just took a shower. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about when I started this video, but it's still worth listening to because I've achieved outcomes that a lot of people here want to achieve. And obviously in doing so, I've consolidated a lot of knowledge. So the two are valuable collectively, right? But like the actual quality of the content, aside from the knowledge and, the perceived value of being associated with me and stuff like that, is not anywhere near as high. So that's the hack. That's the unlock. Like you need to do good shit first. You don't start a content business, and then also run another business side by side. You start the other business, you crush it with that business, you have some massive success with that business, and then you make videos talking about it. If you do anything but that, you're really putting the cart before the horse, man. You're just going to be wasting your time, at least. Yeah, that's my opinion on that anyway. Okay. Local meetups is a great idea. Yeah, I'm going to be doing that. Okay, cool. I think I'm going to leave it there. Unfortunately, that story took a fair amount of time, but hopefully you guys found some value in it. What's going on? Let's see. Time to build and strategize in public. Yesterday, I released a video showing how I was going to audit a YouTube channel. Well, I sent that over to my buddy Jack. We've since doubled down on this new concept. My first million with AI. So the idea is we ride off of my first million, because that's obviously a very successful podcast, but then say with AI or something like that. Let me just actually double check. What did Jack send over? It was brilliant. It was very, very intelligent, the way that he packaged it. Yeah, so AI Millionaire Podcast, sorry. That's what it is. It's not like just a direct rip. So AI Millionaire Podcast. The positioning is my first AI million, becoming an AI millionaire and making as many millionaires as possible leveraging AI. We open up the black book behind 2 7-figure AI businesses and share what we're learning, no bullshit, in real time. We'll bring on people if we think they have something interesting or valuable to say, and we predictive utility. It's a gem that gets you closer to that goal. The actual transformation is we want to help you earn your first $1 million with AI. That's the whole idea. So yeah, I rapped with him a little bit back and forth on it. I think that's a great angle. So we're just going to double, triple down on that. And then a big thing that we're going to do is just what I was talking to, James a moment ago about. Like, there are a lot of people that were watching our stuff and then they just didn't really know who we were, which is fair and understandable. So we just need to assume that the people that are watching, no idea who the hell we are. They've never heard from us, which means that, in order to hook them, we need to show them that we are people worth listening to. So every now and then we need to cite figures. And so personal storytelling is going to be a much bigger part of the podcast moving forward. And so will be some templated like social proof bits. For instance, we're replacing the intros. We don't really have intros, but we're going to record an intro. And in the intro, we're going to talk about our business success, just so that people, when they come on, they're like, oh, okay, these guys have made some money. Cool. Kind of like check. These guys might be worth listening to. Really? He made $2 million? Wow. I wonder how he made $2 million. That kid looks like he's 17. Yeah. So that's the idea. Behind that, so I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. Anyway, let's do some brand stats now, and then I'm going to go hit the gym because I'm feeling pretty small right now. I was feeling big earlier. I'm feeling small right now. Okay. Suffice to say, gym stuff has been going pretty well. I got these big ass tank tops though. They're way too big. I feel like I'm a baby swaddled in a blanket. Guess this is my main channel here. 176, 640. Just going to paste that in there. And then my daily updates is, what are we at? 12,092. Yeah, let's do that. Cool. You guys would be doing me a big solid if you went over to, right now it's called the AI Podcast, but we're going to have a different name for this very quickly. You'll just find it down below in the description, and then you gave it a sub. I think this is going to end up being like a very high quality podcast. This just, we had to do some reps, right? My own content only started taking off after about 15 videos, and we're at 13 right now. So I think, I think it's just going to be some hit or miss, push or pull until we make things work. But it will eventually. Anywho, that's that. Have a lovely rest of the day. Crush your PRs. Catch you on the next video.